The holographic displays cast a soft blue glow across Dr. Sarah Chen's face as she studied the latest military deployment statistics. Around her, the Galactic Council's Strategic Command Center hummed with activity, its crystalline walls reflecting the countless data streams that flowed through the chamber. She had spent the last 3 years in this room, watching civilization after civilization receive approval for military participation, while humanity's applications gathered virtual dust in the Council's archives. "Request denied" flashed across her screen for the 20th time this cycle. The message was accompanied by the same cryptic explanation: species developmental status, pending further evaluation. Sarah leaned back in her hover chair, massaging her temples. Through the vast observation window, she could see the massive defense fleet in orbit around Centauri Prime. Ships of all shapes and sizes moved in perfect formation. Crystalline vessels from the Arthanians, plasma drives of the Marie, and even the organic ships of the recently spacefaring Zorn. Processing another rejection, Ambassador Chen. The melodic voice belonged to first speaker Ilara, her iridescent scales shifting through shades of purple and gold as she approached. The Lysithian was one of the few council members who regularly engaged with the human delegation. First speaker, Sarah straightened in her chair, offering the traditional greeting gesture. "I was just reviewing our latest application for the Nexus Defense Initiative. The results were consistent with previous attempts." Ilara's head frills rippled in what Sarah had learned to interpret as sympathy. The Council's wisdom in these matters is beyond question. When humanity is ready, you will know. Sarah gestured toward the fleet display. "With respect, first speaker, the Zorn achieved faster-than-light travel less than 50 years ago. Humanity has been exploring the stars for 3 centuries. We've established peaceful colonies, developed significant technological innovations, and demonstrated our commitment to galactic cooperation. What more can we do to prove our readiness?" The first speaker's scales shifted to a deeper shade of purple. Preparation for galactic warfare involves factors beyond technological advancement or colonial success. There are patterns that must be observed, harmonies that must be maintained. Before Sarah could press further, alarms blared throughout the command center. The holographic displays shifted to show a new threat assessment. 3 Nexus vessels had breached the outer defense perimeter of the Pleiades sector. Sarah watched in fascination as the response unfolded. The Arthanian fleet moved to the left flank, their crystalline ships arranging themselves in a perfect geometric formation. The Marie vessels pulsed with plasma energy as they took up position on the right. The Zorn bioships filled the center, their organic hulls rippling with defensive patterns. Something about the scene nagged at her analytical mind. The movements seemed almost choreographed. Too perfect, too predictable. "Beautiful, isn't it?" Ilara whispered, her scales now shimmering with excitement. Each species playing their part in the grand dance of combat. The Arthanians will execute their signature flanking maneuver, while the Marie perform their hit-and-run tactics. The Zorn will hold the center, as they always do. Soon, the Nexus ships will retreat, as is proper. Sarah frowned at the first speaker's choice of words, "as is proper." She pulled up historical battle footage on her personal display, starting with conflicts from the previous cycle. The patterns were identical, each species performing the same maneuvers, taking the same positions, responding to threats in the same way every time. First speaker, Sarah said carefully, "Has any species ever deviated from their traditional combat roles?" Ilara's scales suddenly went slate gray, a color Sarah had never seen before. Such deviation would be unnecessary, unharmonious. Each species knows their part in maintaining galactic peace through proper military conduct. As the first speaker hurried away, Sarah began a new analysis. This time, she wasn't looking at technology levels or colonial development. Instead, she started mapping battle patterns, comparing tactical decisions across species and centuries. There was something here, something that might finally explain humanity's continued exclusion from galactic warfare. and she was going to find it. The grand reception hall of the Galactic Council sparkled with bioluminescent crystals, their light reflecting off the diverse beings gathered for the annual Strategic Alliance ceremony. Dr. Sarah Chen navigated through clusters of delegates, her formal diplomatic robes swishing softly against the polished floor. Her real interest lay not in the ceremony itself, but in one particular guest, Commander Catal of the Arthanian Defense Force. The silicon-based beings stood apart from the crowd, their crystalline form refracting light in complex patterns. Sarah had spent weeks arranging this meeting, knowing that the Arthanians' legendary institutional memory made them invaluable sources of historical information. Commander Catal. Sarah bowed in the traditional Arthanian manner, her movements precise. Thank you for agreeing to speak with me. Catal's crystalline surface rippled in acknowledgement. Dr. Chen, your request intrigued me. Few show interest in historical battle formations beyond their tactical applications. Sarah produced a small holoprojector, displaying a series of combat maneuvers she had documented. I've noticed something fascinating in your species' approach to space combat. There's an almost musical quality to the movements. An interesting observation. Catal's voice resonated through their crystalline form. We believe in the harmony of battle. Each movement flows into the next, like the growth patterns of our crystal cities. Sarah activated another hologram, this one showing a recent skirmish with Nexus forces. Yet in 3 centuries of recorded conflicts, the Arthanian fleet has never deviated from these specific patterns, even when surprise tactics might have been more effective. Catal's surface briefly clouded. Deviation brings disharmony. The patterns are proven. They are correct. Correct, Sarah repeated softly. Not effective, not strategic, but correct. She switched to a different display, showing the Marie's plasma ships in action. The same holds true for other species. The Marie always employ hit-and-run tactics, even when standing their ground might serve better. You perceive disorder where there is perfect order, Dr. Chen. Catal's tone carried a hint of what might have been concern. Each species contributes their part to the greater harmony of combat. Sarah pressed further. In human military history, adaptation was crucial to survival. Commanders who became too predictable invariably faced defeat. Yet here, in galactic warfare, predictability seems to be not just accepted, but celebrated. Catal's crystalline form began to resonate at a frequency that made nearby glasses vibrate. Perhaps that explains humanity's current status in galactic affairs. You see imperfection in perfection. Or perhaps we see something everyone else has been conditioned to overlook, Sarah murmured, but Catal had already turned away, their crystal surface now completely opaque. Later that evening, in her private quarters aboard the human diplomatic vessel, Sarah compiled her observations. The reception had provided more evidence than she'd hoped for. Every species, without exception, displayed rigid adherence to predetermined tactical patterns. It went beyond military doctrine or cultural preference. It was as if they were incapable of considering alternatives. She pulled up her research notes, adding new data points to her growing collection. The Arthanians always attacked in crystalline formations, emphasizing geometric precision over tactical advantage. The Marie's plasma ships never deviated from their hit-and-run approach, even when surrounded. The Zorn's organic vessels maintained fixed positions regardless of battlefield conditions. A notification flashed on her screen. Her analysis program had finished processing centuries of battle footage. The results confirmed her suspicions. Every species followed exact patterns, down to the precise timing of their maneuvers. It wasn't just strategy, it was choreography. Sarah leaned back, her mind racing. She needed more data, more proof. Moving to her communication terminal, she began drafting a proposal for a new research initiative. If her hypothesis was correct, humanity's exclusion from galactic warfare wasn't about their readiness for battle. It was about their inability to follow the script. The simulation chamber hummed with energy as Dr. Sarah Chen made final adjustments to the neural interface systems. She had spent 3 months convincing the Galactic Council to approve this cultural exchange program. carefully presenting it as a way to study different species' problem-solving approaches. The truth was far more targeted. Environmental parameters locked. Her assistant, Dr. Marcus Wong, called from the control station. First participant is ready for initialization. Through the observation window, Sarah watched as an Arthanian military officer settled into the interface chair. Their crystalline forms sparkled under the chamber's soft lighting. Beginning Scenario 1, Marcus announced, his fingers dancing across the holographic controls. Standard space combat simulation with randomized variables. The scenario was deceptively simple. Defend a space station against raiders. Sarah had intentionally designed it with multiple viable solutions, carefully documenting every tactical decision made by the participants. The Arthanian officer performed brilliantly, within expected parameters. Their ship movements followed the same geometric patterns Sarah had observed in actual combat footage. Even when presented with clearly superior tactical options, they adhered to traditional Arthanian battle formations. Fascinating, Marcus murmured, reviewing the data. They chose a technically inferior approach because it matched their standard doctrine. Over the next several hours, representatives from different species cycled through the chamber. The Marie commander executed their signature hit-and-run tactics, even when the simulation clearly favored a direct assault. The Zorn strategist positioned their forces in the exact defensive formation used in real battles, despite the scenario offering advantageous alternatives. Let's try Scenario 2, Sarah instructed as a human captain entered the chamber. Captain Helena Rodriguez was a decorated veteran of the Sol Defense Force, though she had never seen actual combat against alien forces. The simulation began, presenting the same basic challenge, but with subtly different parameters. Within minutes, Rodriguez departed from any established tactical doctrine. She positioned her forces in an unprecedented formation, using the space station's gravitational field in ways none of the alien participants had considered. That's innovative, Marcus said, tracking her movements. She's treating the station's defensive capabilities as an offensive resource. Sarah nodded, adding markers to her data set. Now watch what happens when we introduce the random event sequence. The simulation threw a series of unexpected challenges at Rodriguez. Shield failures, weapon malfunctions, sudden reinforcement of enemy forces. Each time, she adapted, abandoning failed strategies and developing new ones on the fly. Her final solution bore no resemblance to her initial approach, but proved highly effective. The contrast is remarkable, Marcus said, comparing the data streams. The alien participants stick to their original strategies, even when they clearly stop working. Humans just change. Sarah pulled up the composite analysis on her personal display. After 50 participants across 8 species, the pattern was undeniable. Alien commanders, regardless of their species or experience level, followed predictable tactical doctrines. Humans consistently developed unique solutions, often building entirely new strategies mid-scenario. It's not about military capability, Sarah realized, speaking half to herself. It's about tactical evolution, the ability to truly adapt. She began composing a preliminary report, her fingers trembling slightly with excitement. The implications were staggering. Every spacefaring species except humans demonstrated an almost programmed adherence to established patterns. It went beyond cultural conditioning or military tradition. There was something fundamentally different about human decision-making. Marcus, she said suddenly, access the historical archives. I need everything you can find about the early days of galactic warfare, especially any references to tactical standardization or combat protocols. How far back should I go? Sarah thought about the rigid patterns she'd observed, the almost ritualistic nature of galactic combat. As far as you can, something happened in the past, something that shaped how every species except humans approaches warfare. And I think I know where to find the answers. Her gaze drifted to the secure terminal that accessed the Council's deepest archives. The truth about humanity's exclusion was hidden somewhere in that ancient database. She just had to figure out how to reach it. The deepest levels of the galactic archives existed in quantum crystal matrices, their blue-white glow providing the only illumination in the vast underground chamber. Dr. Sarah Chen's security clearance had granted her access to the public sections before, but never to these restricted data cores. Tonight was different. Temporal lock disengaged. The archives AI announced, "You have 4 hours, Ambassador Chen. Use them wisely." Sarah had called in every favor, leveraged every diplomatic connection, and nearly caused an interstellar incident to gain this brief access. First Speaker Ilara's final warning echoed in her mind. Some knowledge is preserved not to be remembered, but to ensure we never forget why we forgot. Her fingers moved across the ancient interface, searching for references to the Harmony Protocol she glimpsed in newer documents. The quantum crystals hummed with accumulated knowledge, centuries of galactic history flowing through their lattices. Display historical records predating standardized combat protocols, she commanded. The crystals shifted, presenting fragments of text that made her breath catch. "The Great Discord," she read aloud. "Final report of the Emergency Council, Cycle 47,892. In response to the catastrophic losses sustained during the entropy wars, the following measures are hereby enacted." The text continued, revealing a history that had been buried for millennia. The entropy wars had nearly destroyed galactic civilization. Endless cycles of tactical evolution had led to increasingly devastating weapons and strategies. Each innovation prompted countermeasures. Each countermeasure sparked new innovations, until entire star systems were being consumed as casual collateral damage. Implementation of the Harmony Protocol is proceeding as planned. Another fragment read, "The genetic modifications are subtle. Species will retain their technological capabilities, but lose the cognitive patterns that lead to tactical innovation. Each civilization will be assigned specific combat roles and behaviors, ensuring that all future conflicts remain within acceptable parameters." Sarah's hands trembled as she accessed more records. The Harmony Protocol hadn't just been a military doctrine. It had been a fundamental redesign of sapient psychology. Every spacefaring species had been carefully modified to remove their capacity for true tactical adaptation. But humanity evolved separately, she whispered, the pieces finally falling into place. We were never modified. She dug deeper into the archives, finding records of the first contact between Earth and the Galactic Council. The preliminary assessment of human psychology had caused near panic among the Council members. Humans displayed the same dangerous capacity for tactical innovation that had nearly destroyed the galaxy millennia ago. Query. She addressed the archive AI. How many species have successfully resisted or reversed the Harmony Protocol modifications? 0 confirmed cases, the AI responded. 3 suspected cases. In each instance, the species was deemed too dangerous for continued existence. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. Display records of those cases. The crystals shifted again, showing her glimpses of civilizations that had begun breaking free of their programmed patterns. In each case, the Council had acted swiftly and decisively. Entire species erased from the galaxy. That's why they keep refusing our military participation, she realized. They're not waiting for us to be ready. They're waiting to decide if we're too dangerous to survive. A new alert flashed across her display. A priority message from Marcus. Her eyes widened as she read it. The latest analysis of the Nexus Horde's battle patterns showed subtle but significant changes. They were beginning to adapt, to innovate. Sarah quickly copied the most crucial historical data to her secure quantum drive. She had found the truth about humanity's exclusion, but she had also discovered something far more terrifying. The Nexus Horde hadn't just been studying human tactics. They had somehow broken free of the Harmony Protocol's restrictions. The galaxy faced a choice: maintain the artificial peace of predetermined combat patterns and face extinction, or embrace the chaos of true tactical innovation. And humanity's survival would depend on which option the Council chose. As the archive's lights began to dim, signaling the end of her access period, Sarah prepared herself for what would come next. She had the truth now. The question was, what would she do with it? The Galactic Council's Strategic Command Center buzzed with unusual activity as Dr. Sarah Chen prepared her presentation. Holographic displays showed the latest battle formations, each species moving with their characteristic precision. To most observers, it was a display of military might. To Sarah, it now looked like performers following an ancient script. "You understand the gravity of what you're proposing to reveal," Marcus said quietly, helping her organize the data streams. "This knowledge has been buried for thousands of cycles." Sarah watched as a Marie battle group executed their traditional hit-and-run maneuver against a simulated target. "Look at the timing," she said, freezing the display. "Down to the microsecond, identical to every other Marie attack in recorded history. It's not just similar, it's exact." The chamber doors parted, admitting council members from across the galaxy. First Speaker Ilara led the procession, her scales shifting through troubled patterns of deep purple and gray. The Arthanian representatives crystallized into their formal configurations, while the Marie delegates pulsed with barely contained plasma energy. "Dr. Chen," Ilara's voice carried across the chamber, "you claim to have discovered something of vital importance regarding our military protocols. The Council has granted you this extraordinary session. Proceed with care." Sarah activated her primary display, showing footage from her simulation project. "Honored Council members, what you're about to see will challenge everything we understand about galactic warfare. But with the Nexus Horde displaying unprecedented tactical adaptations, this truth can no longer remain hidden." She played a sequence showing various species responding to combat scenarios. Notice how each participant executes perfect maneuvers according to their species doctrine. But watch what happens when the scenario changes unexpectedly. The display showed alien commanders continuing their predetermined patterns, even as conditions made those tactics catastrophically ineffective. Then it switched to human participants, showcasing their constant tactical evolution. "This isn't about military doctrine or cultural preference," Sarah explained. "A harmony protocol fundamentally altered how your species process tactical information. What you see as perfect order, we see as dangerous rigidity." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. An Arthanian counselor's surface clouded with distress patterns. "You speak of matters beyond your understanding, Dr. Chen. The Harmony Protocol saved us from extinction. It saved you from innovation," Sarah countered, bringing up the ancient records. "The entropy wars nearly destroyed the galaxy because every species could adapt and evolve their tactics. The solution wasn't to teach restraint. It was to remove the capacity for tactical creativity entirely." She displayed a neural map comparing human and alien decision-making patterns. Every spacefaring species except humans has been modified to follow predetermined combat protocols. You haven't been fighting wars. You've been performing elaborate battle dances, every move choreographed millennia in advance. First Speaker Ilara's scales had gone completely gray. "And you believe this makes humanity superior?" "No," Sarah said firmly. "It makes us different, perhaps dangerously so. But with the Nexus Horde breaking free of these restrictions, that difference might be the galaxy's only hope." She showed the latest Nexus battle footage. "They've been studying us, learning to think beyond their programming. Your perfect system of controlled warfare is about to face an enemy capable of true tactical innovation. And your response, it will be the same patterns, the same maneuvers, the same inevitable defeat." The chamber erupted in overlapping voices and electromagnetic pulses of agitation. Sarah pressed on, knowing she might not get another chance. "Humanity wasn't excluded because we weren't ready," she declared. "We were excluded because we're the only species left capable of genuine strategic adaptation. You fear us because we represent everything the Harmony Protocol was designed to eliminate: unpredictability, innovation, chaos." The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. First Speaker Ilara approached the display, her scales now showing colors Sarah had never seen before. Then it seems, Dr. Chen, we face a terrible choice. Maintain the peace we have known for millennia, or embrace the very chaos we sought to eliminate. The question is, are we capable of making that choice at all? Emergency alerts flashed across every screen in the Strategic Command Center as Dr. Sarah Chen rushed through the crystalline corridors. The Nexus Horde had launched simultaneous attacks on 3 different sectors, using tactics that shattered centuries of predictable warfare patterns. "Status report," she called out, entering the central chamber where Marcus was already coordinating with the Defense Fleet commanders. "It's worse than we projected," he said, his face illuminated by the red warning holograms. "The Nexus forces are implementing hybrid tactics. They're combining different species battle patterns in ways we've never seen before." On the main display, a Nexus battle group executed a perfect Arthanian crystal formation, only to suddenly break apart and employ Mri-style hit-and-run attacks. Another group had adapted the Zorn's defensive configurations into an aggressive assault pattern. First Speaker Ilara materialized beside them, her scales rapidly cycling through distress colors. "This should not be possible. The patterns are sacred, immutable. They're not just mixing patterns anymore," Sarah observed, studying the tactical readouts. "They're creating entirely new ones. Look at this formation. It doesn't match any known species combat doctrine." The council chamber had become a chaos of urgent communications and status updates. Representatives from every major species watched in horror as their carefully orchestrated system of warfare crumbled before their eyes. 7th Fleet reports total losses. An Arthanian commander announced, their crystalline form clouded with distress. The Nexus forces anticipated our geometric attack pattern and used it against us. Sarah pulled up her analysis software, tracking the evolution of the Nexus tactics in real time. They're learning exponentially. Each engagement gives them more data to work with, more patterns to break down and recombine. The Harmony Protocol was supposed to prevent this, Ilara whispered. "No species should be capable of such tactical innovation. Except humans," Marcus pointed out. And now them. A new alert drew their attention to the tactical display. The Nexus forces had split into smaller groups, each one targeting a specific species fleet. As they watched, a Nexus squadron engaged an Arthanian battle group. The crystalline ships moved into their traditional attack formation, elegant and precise, and completely predictable. The Nexus vessels responded with a devastating counter-strategy that turned the Arthanians' geometric precision against them. Within minutes, the entire battle group was reduced to drifting crystal shards. They're not just adapting tactically, Sarah realized, her voice tight with urgency. They're exploiting the very predictability that the Harmony Protocol enforced. Every predetermined pattern has become a weakness. The chamber erupted in overlapping crisis reports as more fleets encountered similar defeats. The Mri's hit-and-run tactics were anticipated and countered. The Zorn's defensive formations were systematically dismantled. "Our strategic algorithms cannot compute effective responses," the central battle computer announced. "Enemy tactical variance exceeds predicted parameters." First Speaker Ilara turned to Sarah, her scales now a solid deep gray of desperation. "Dr. Chen, you understand these patterns of chaos. How will humanity respond to such attacks?" Sarah studied the battle displays, her mind racing through possibilities. "We wouldn't respond at all. We'd initiate, change the parameters, force them to react to us instead of following their own pattern recognition. That level of tactical improvisation is precisely what the Harmony Protocol was designed to prevent," an Arthanian counselor objected. "And now that prevention has become a fatal weakness," Sarah countered. "Your fleets will keep executing their programmed maneuvers until there's nothing left. The Nexus forces have evolved beyond the constraints of predictable warfare, but you cannot." A massive explosion lit up the tactical display as another defense fleet fell to the innovative Nexus strategies. First Speaker Ilara watched the destruction, her scales finally settling into a color Sarah had never seen before, the dark blue of resignation. "Perhaps," the first speaker said quietly, "it is time to reevaluate our position on human military participation." The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened in the ancient Chamber of Consensus, a vast amphitheater deep within the station's core. Dr. Sarah Chen stood at the central podium, surrounded by the most powerful beings in known space. The room hummed with nervous energy as real-time battle displays showed the continuing Nexus advance. "The data is irrefutable," Sarah began, her voice steady despite the gravity of the moment. "In the past 48 hours, we have lost 37 battle groups across 12 sectors. Traditional combat patterns have not only failed, but have actively contributed to these defeats." She gestured to a holographic display showing the latest tactical analysis. "The Nexus forces have developed a predictive algorithm based on our own military protocols. They know exactly how each fleet will respond in any given situation. Then we shall devise new patterns," an Arthanian counselor suggested, their crystalline form vibrating with distress. "More complex formations, more intricate maneuvers." "That's exactly what we must not do," Sarah countered. "Any new pattern, no matter how complex, will still be a pattern. The Nexus forces will analyze it, adapt to it, and exploit it. We need something they cannot predict: human tactical innovation." First speaker Ilara rose from her seat, her scales shifting through troubled colors. "You propose to undo millennia of careful balance. The Harmony Protocol exists for a reason, Dr. Chen. The chaos of unrestricted warfare nearly destroyed us all. The galaxy faces a different threat now," Sarah responded. "The Nexus Horde has somehow broken free of these restrictions. They've learned to think like we do, to adapt, to innovate, to create new strategies on the fly. Your choice isn't between harmony and chaos anymore. It's between adaptation and extinction." She brought up footage from her simulation studies. "Human tactical thinking isn't just random chaos. We can teach your commanders to think dynamically, to respond to changing situations in real time. We can show you how to break free from predictable patterns without losing strategic coherence." Marcus stepped forward, adding his own data to the display. "We've developed a training program that can help bridge the gap between structured and adaptive combat thinking. It won't undo the Harmony Protocol, but it can help you work around its limitations." The council chamber erupted in overlapping discussions. Species that had been enemies millennia ago now faced a common crisis that challenged their very way of thinking about warfare. "The human proposal has merit," a Marie commander's voice cut through the chaos. "In the last engagement, we lost an entire fleet because we couldn't deviate from our hit-and-run tactics. The Nexus forces predicted and countered every move before we made it." Sarah highlighted a new tactical simulation. "We're not asking you to abandon everything you know about combat. We're offering to show you how to use those skills flexibly, adaptively. Imagine combining the Arthanians' geometric precision with human tactical improvisation, or merging re-energy attacks with unpredictable human strike patterns. And who would command such operations?" First speaker Ilara asked. "Our leaders are bound by the protocol's restrictions." "Joint command," Sarah proposed. "Human tactical advisors working alongside your existing fleet commanders. We provide the strategic innovation. You provide the technical expertise and combat experience." A warning klaxon interrupted the discussion. Another defense fleet had fallen to the Nexus forces, this time in a sector dangerously close to major civilian populations. "Time grows short," Marcus warned. "The Nexus forces are adapting faster than we can retreat." First speaker Ilara's scales settled into a deep, resolute blue. "The council must vote. We face an unprecedented choice. Maintain our adherence to the Harmony Protocol and face certain defeat, or embrace the uncertain path of human tactical innovation." Sarah watched as the council members communicated in their various ways, through light patterns, chemical signatures, electromagnetic pulses. The future of galactic warfare, and perhaps civilization itself, hung in the balance. The first speaker turned to her, scales now showing a completely new pattern. "Dr. Chen, how quickly can you implement your training program?" 3 months after the Council's historic decision, Dr. Sarah Chen stood on the observation deck of the Strategic Command Center, watching the combined fleet prepare for its first major counteroffensive. The sight before her defied millennia of galactic military doctrine. Arthanian crystalline ships flowed through space in formations that seemed to constantly reshape themselves, their geometric patterns evolving in response to tactical needs rather than tradition. Marie plasma vessels pulsed with energy as they practiced new hybrid maneuvers, combining their traditional hit-and-run tactics with unpredictable strike patterns. "The latest simulation results are promising," Marcus said, joining her at the window. "The joint command structure is working better than we hoped." Sarah nodded, reviewing the data on her personal display. Each alien fleet now had a human tactical advisor working directly with the traditional commander. The integration hadn't been easy. Breaking through centuries of ingrained patterns required more than just technical training. Fleet Commander Chen. First Speaker Ilara's voice carried a new tone of respect as she approached, her scales showing the deep blue of certainty. "The Nexus forces have been detected moving toward the Centauri sector. The combined fleet awaits your tactical assessment." Sarah turned to the holographic battle display, where representatives from every major species gathered around the strategic planning table. The scene would have been impossible just months ago. Different species actively collaborating on tactical innovations rather than following predetermined protocols. "The Nexus forces expect us to respond according to the old patterns," Sarah began, highlighting key positions in the stellar map. "They've positioned themselves to counter traditional Arthanian and Marie attack formations, so we'll give them something entirely new." She outlined the battle plan, showing how each species' strengths could be combined in ways the Harmony Protocol had never considered. Arthanian crystal ships would provide the structural framework, but their formations would be fluid, adaptive. Marie vessels would weave through these frameworks, their energy attacks synchronized with human-designed strike patterns. "This is more than just tactical innovation," the Arthanian commander observed, their crystalline surface showing new, complex patterns. "We are writing a new language of warfare." The combined fleet moved into position, each ship finding its place in the revolutionary formation. Sarah watched as centuries of rigid doctrine gave way to something more dynamic, more alive. The Nexus vessels approached, their own adaptive tactics ready to exploit patterns that no longer existed. "All fleet elements in position," Marcus reported. "Enemy forces entering engagement range. Execute Operation Breaking Wave," Sarah commanded. The battle that followed would be studied for generations to come. The Nexus forces, prepared for predictable responses, found themselves facing an ever-changing puzzle. Every time they adapted to one tactical configuration, the combined fleet would shift to another, never settling into a pattern that could be exploited. Arthanian geometric precision merged seamlessly with human strategic improvisation. Marie energy attacks flowed through constantly evolving formation gaps. Even the Zorn bioships demonstrated unprecedented tactical flexibility, their organic hulls pulsing with new forms of coordinated response. "The Nexus fleet is retreating," Marcus announced as the last enemy vessels flood the battlefield. "Confirmed kills at 70% of their force. No losses among our primary battle groups." The council chamber erupted in celebrations transmitted through light, sound, and electromagnetic pulses. Sarah felt First Speaker Ilara's hand on her shoulder, the First Speaker's scales showing colors of both triumph and humility. "We thought the Harmony Protocol was our salvation," Ilara said softly. "We never imagined that true harmony could emerge from the very chaos we feared." Sarah watched as the combined fleet regrouped, each ship moving with newfound freedom, while maintaining perfect coordination with its allies. "The galaxy needed both," she replied. "Your discipline and our creativity. Your precision and our adaptability. Not a single perfect pattern, but an infinite variety of them, always evolving, always surprising." The fleet began its victory formation, not the rigid geometric displays of the past, but a flowing, organic demonstration of unified diversity. A new era of galactic warfare had begun, proving that the greatest strength lay not in perfection, but in the endless capacity to change.